I must admit, I didn't really get too interested with the Tithe series of videos until just the recent one. And it's not because it's an Age of Sigmar video series, it's more of the fact that I saw more undead and I just got kind of bored. I was expecting it due to the art style to be something Nighthaunt related, maybe something new for them. But then the third video came out and I have to admit it piqued my interest purely because of the artwork. The video footage itself is playing as the background of this video, and I invite you to check it out because it seems very, very interesting, especially when you have a closer look. While the voiceover is kind of strange in terms of accent and so on, and a little bit of the armor does look a bit foreign to me, don't certain icons that appear in this video remind you of an old race? One that lived within the sands? Of course I'm talking about the Tomb Kings. Some of those icons actually remind me of those old iconographies that you could find on certain Tomb Guard, Tomb Princes and so on. And while in truth some of the other undead that have been featured on this video and the others do seem like they follow more of a Sylvanian style vampire count army for the undead, with the knights looking like a bit of an updated Black Knight model, I can't help but think they would be restyling the undead in a very Legions of Nagash type of style, because during the end times we had the mixture between the vampire counts and the Nehekaran undead to make a very new army. So I'm thinking maybe this is a way for GW to actually re-implement the Lost Nation of Nehekara and bring back a bunch of undead. This is pure speculation, but I'm seeing it a lot with the iconography, and a lot of the local players that I've been talking to think it's the same thing. We did have them mixed up, it seems like it would be a good way to show it. Obviously we know that Arkan and Neferata are still very much geared in terms of aesthetic in a very Nehekaran flavour. They still look like Tomb Kings and Queens, and it would make sense for them to have their own armies. Now I could be very wrong about this, because there's a few times that GW have teased something and I've been completely thrown off, but this just seems way too much of a coincidence, especially since the last video had this character holding up an icon of a scorpion, with scorpions obviously being very well known in the Nehekaran culture. There's a few things he says which kind of makes me think it's going to be a Tomb King release, that of which where he says that he doesn't enjoy this, but then he does. It's very Arkan the Black centric, maybe he's going to get a new model. Then there's also the stuff about him being a general. So yeah, he was a general, he was a right-hand man type of thing. So it would make sense that he now get his 5 minutes of fame in Age of Sigmar. It would be really cool if we ended up seeing some old models such as the Necrosis Colossus, the Tomb King Chariots, the Screaming Claw Catapults, maybe even Giant Scorpions return into the fray. It's been a long time since the Tomb Kings were discontinued, and maybe this is just the time for them to come back. Especially since Nagash really doesn't have too much of his former life with him. Yeah, he has a lot of the undead and those are his creations, the vampires and so on. But what about those that were actually with him since the beginning? Something for Arkan to take over as an army, to rule as an emperor under his god, Nagash. It just makes sense to me that this should happen. Obviously it could just be another army and just a total rework of the basic skeletons, but we saw the catapult in the animation and it just kind of reminds me of actual Tomb Kings. They had a Screaming Claw catapult. The vampire counts never had anything of range or stuff like artillery pieces, but the Tomb Kings did. They had bowmen, they had horse riders that actually had bows too, and they had the Screaming Claw catapult. It would add some new flavor to the armies of death, and obviously those who still play Warhammer Fantasy such as myself could have some models back. Hopefully they're not getting reworked too badly that they're too massive, but it would be really cool if we got some basic units back. This is talking in the benefit of not only the Age of Sigmar players, because they might want something different and something a little bit more flavorful for themselves rather than just pure melee and casters, but also for the fantasy players who still long for the return of Nehekara. I'm honestly hoping it's this. We're going to find out apparently this Thursday, I believe, or Wednesday night US time. I'm not 100% sure about that. I've got to check it out later because I honestly saw the video, I was like, wow, and then I just got into the speculation train with all my friends, so it was kind of like, what could this be? Do you think it's the Tomb Kings? Do you think it's Cetra? And I'll have some speculation regarding Cetra maybe around later this week or something, but I just kind of wanted to focus on the Tomb Kings as a whole. I miss them terribly as a Warhammer Fantasy player, and I also think they would look really cool if they got a visual update. Nothing to scale them up, by the way, please, let's not get them like the Fire Slayers. They just look too massive, and it just looks a bit silly. But honestly, it would be really, really cool if we had the Tomb Kings returning to Age of Sigmar, and honestly, I would actually admit that if the Tomb Kings did appear in Age of Sigmar, I might be a bit tempted to play it, because yeah, they look cool. They've always been one of my favorite races and factions. As long as they don't lose too much aesthetically, I would be all in. But what do you guys think about the Tithe series? Do you have any speculation of your own? Let me know in the comments below, and let's have a little bit of a discussion, shall we? But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.